WoW Killer is a production of amove.tv. Check out amove TV for many more podcasts, multiple about Blizzard games. And for more of Taliesin's WoW coverage, check out Taliesin and Evitel on YouTube and twitch.tv. Welcome back, everyone, as we just sit here patiently waiting for BlizzCon line to come and tell us what's killing World of Warcraft next. But for now, we're here to tell you what's killing it, because this is WoW Killer. I'm Garrett, here as always, with Taliesin.
Hello,
Welcome
Garrett.
back,
for some unknown reason, I'm just going to start the show today by doing a clap. There you go. Means nothing to the audience, but might be handy for you later on. Anyway, welcome! Oh, what a great show!
It's great.
Oh, this is going to be the best show ever, I can already tell.
Welcome to WoW Killer, the show where we do our clap takes live in the middle of the podcast.
They don't know what a clap take is, Garrett. They're not professional podcasters like we are. They're not famous, world-famous podcasters like what we are. They don't know what a clap take is.
Listen, dude.
They think that's something you do on Twitter when you own someone.
Let me tell you how this happens, Taliesin. I don't even know if you listen to any podcasts. I don't know if you're a podcast
Mate,
fan.
I don't even listen to this one. What are you talking about?
Why would you listen to your own show? I realize that you have a somewhat elevated opinion of yourself, Taliesin, but I would assume that it's not so high that you want to listen to yourself after you've already just said the things that you said. I listen to about the first 5 minutes of this episode every week while writing the ID tags for the podcast, whatnot, just to make sure it doesn't sound like butt and keep myself honest. But that's about as much as I can take of my own voice. But this is how it's going to happen. This is how it's going to happen, Taliesin, because you know, there's a percentage of the audience out there that might actually be podcast fans of the craft, maybe aspiring podcasters themselves. We've been doing this show over a year now. There's enough episodes out there. There's enough people that actually, for some reason, like what we're saying every week. I'm not sure why, but, you know, clearly they have very good taste.
I think it's your brilliant microphone.
We're going to be at a BlizzCon so at some point in the future, vaccinated, feeling great, paying too much for beer at the Hilton. And someone's going to come up to either you or me and say, hey, I just want you to know, I started podcasting because of WoW Killer. And there's going to be this, and we're going to be standing next to someone like Scott Johnson, and we're just going to go, but wait a minute, like he's the OG. Why us? And we're going to have this moment of, oh my God, we inspired.
It'll be so awkward. And this kid will be like, what? Scott Johnson? That loser? Nah, I hate every show that guy does, especially The Instant. Everyone on that show is trash, but everyone on your show is excellent. Move over, Grandad, and you, Scott Johnson. Grandad, get off Scott Johnson. Both of you, move over. I want to talk to the WoW Killer guys.
The Granddad is me, because I'm the one that wants to talk to Scott Johnson.
I don't think that'll ever happen, Garrett. No, I don't think that story will ever come to... I just can't see it. Sorry.
It's gonna, man. I'm feeling if you can't
For a
tell.
Start, I don't think there'll ever be another BlizzCon in real life. And secondly, clearly, no, we'll never meet anyone that listens to the show and likes it. So
I'm feeling wistful. You know, with BlizzCon line coming up, I'm feeling a little wistful. Missing actual BlizzCon, missing seeing actual people.
Yeah, well, now that we've had like the official kind of trailer with the exciting trailer music, some of my favorite Blizzard music is the BlizzCon music that they play when they want to get you pumped. And it works every single time. Whenever there's like a BlizzCon trailer, for any BlizzCon, they do it in the new BlizzCon trailer, or the BlizzCon line trailer as well. They play that BlizzCon music. And man, I love that BlizzCon music. The da-da-da, da-da-da, that one with all the chanting and like, you know, it's just excellent. It's so good. And, you know, like, it'll be playing and then they'll be, what a year it's been, da-da-da, da-da-da. It's like, we are all geek is. We are all together. Da-da-da, da-da-da. Picture of Jaina in a cosplay. Loving it. And every time, Garrett, even though I know it's coming, every single time I go, oh, I love this faceless evil corporation. It's brilliant. I can't wait to celebrate it in a big room with loads of other people.
Yeah, my favorite shot is the one of Kotick on like the front of his yacht doing on top of the world. And you do that, that speed ramp thing where it's like it's going full speed and then it slows down and that's when the bass drops. It's like
da, 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 da. I
You
would
paid
love
for
that.
this.
I'd love it if they pulled that shit at BlizzCon. If they're like, and here's a special guest on the video screen today, Bobby Kotick, ladies and gentlemen. And he's like,
listen,
hey, how you doing?
That's what
I don't know
they're
what his
gonna
voice
do.
sounds like. Sorry, I have no idea what his voice sounds like. So
They're gonna have to wait for the year that Dreamhaven buys back Blizzard for that to drop that particular bomb. That's what they're gonna have to wait for.
it'll be amazing. And Kotick would be on his yacht and he'd be like, oh, hey, BlizzCon. This is what he sounds like, definitely. Hey, BlizzCon. I just wanted to say thanks for doing so well on Candy Crush this year. It's doing good. We'd be like, yeah, thanks,
I'm
Bobby.
Bobby Kotick. You might remember me from such hits as Moneyball and Drama on the Internet.
He's a popular man. I think that's the thing we need to raise BlizzCon through the roof. Bobby Kotick arriving on stage, launching a new game. It's a mobile game.
It
It'll shock you to learn. It's a mobile game.
Yep. We have absorbed another studio you love, and we're just going to be making Candy Crush spin-offs for the rest of forever. Enjoy, everybody. Have a good one.
Fantastic.
But that is not what we are here
It's
to
World
talk
of
about
Warcraft
today.
2, ladies and gentlemen, but it's a pachinko machine.
It is. It is. And actually, before we get to the topic today, I do want to put a call out for emails. If you want to be a part of the show, you want to write in because we still got another week, Taliesin, before BlizzCon line. And if we were gonna find the time to take some emails, it sure seems like what I would assume is a complete and utter vacuum of new information as it pertains to World of Warcraft that the week before BlizzCon would be a good time to maybe check in with our listeners, see how they're doing, seeing what's on their mind. So write in, folks, wowkillercast@gmail.com. Send in your emails. Let us know your burning World of Warcraft questions, your burning theories, or maybe just your lukewarm questions. Those are also acceptable.
Yeah, and if we read it, it's because we really like it and we think it's an interesting question. And if we don't read it, we probably thought it was rubbish. And we talked about it amongst ourselves, and we were like, nah, and we made fun of you. And then we didn't read out your email.
That being said, I am really excited about your theory about StarCraft 64 remastered.
I look forward to it. I also want to clarify, that was obviously a joke. We never make fun of the emails. Or I don't anyway. Garrett sometimes does. So what is the topic for today's show, Garrett, apart from BlizzCon line yearning?
Your juiciest guild drama, guild disbanding stories, guild drama stories.
Nice. Okay, so this is prompted by Preach Gaming, a good friend of mine and a hero of mine. Probably one of the reasons I started doing YouTube, in fact, because of his excellent World of Warcraft videos. Someone who I've been following for years and years and years. Very good player, a very good commentator on the game. Are you a fan of Preach Gaming, Garrett?
I'm actually rather unfamiliar.
That pause was too long. That pause was far too long. That's like...
I didn't know how to make that sound polite, but listen, there's
all
a
I'm
lot
saying is,
of
if I asked you if I looked
content
good in
out
this
there.
dress and that pause was that long, I'd be like, he hates the dress. I
don't
shouldn't
know,
have worn a dress.
Preach
I should have
doesn't
warned
know
him about
me.
the dress before I put it on.
My awareness of Preach is by watching Taliesin and Evitel videos. That's as far as it goes.
Okay, well, that's good. Okay, so I consider him to be one of the finest voices in the WoW commentary sphere. I consider him a pal and a friend. You know, we've hung out lots of times in his own home, and it's wonderful. And I like him very much. He's a really good guy. He's got a lovely family. I'm sorry that you hate him, but I like him. Okay,
I've got a thought, and I think it's high praise for Preach.
Okay,
because I think if you are creating WoW content and I don't watch your content, but I am also not particularly aware of the content that you make, it means you're probably not one of the bad ones. Because if I don't watch you and I am aware of you, it's probably for the wrong reasons.
Oh, I see where you finally went with that. It makes sense now. Okay.
I don't watch. There's a lot of content I don't watch, especially within landscapes of games that I make content for.
Anyway, Preacher's Bay, he's a friend of the channel. And recently his Mythic Guild, his Mythic Progression Guild, which it involves people from the Fat Boss TV guides as well, who I also know, and who I think are really cool as well. Their guild disbanded after killing Mythic Denathrius, and it's very sad. He did a video about it. And obviously I watched it because I love videos like that. I love videos which are like guild drama and guilds disbanding and guilds kind of having problems and things like that, because it makes me feel good about my perfect guild, which is always perfect. And I go, nice. But it did get me yearning for some proper juicy guild stories. So that is what we are dedicating today's episode to. And it's a bit of an indulgent topic, I know. And it's a bit of a story time, and if you are long-time listeners to this show, you may have heard snippets of some of these stories before, which is why we have put out a call to the live audience here today, and on Twitter as well, to feed us some of their own short stories about guild drama as well. So if you have heard some of the things we've said before, don't worry, because there will be all new things. I'm getting many whispers and emails as this show goes on, which I'll be able to read through and entertain and regale us with, because I love guild drama. Have you ever had guild drama, Garrett? I probably should have asked you that before we started this show.
Of course I've had guild
thank
drama.
God.
Yeah, jeez. Are you kidding me?
It could have been very awkward if you'd said no.
So I have mentioned the reason I went to Horde before, which was probably the highest point of guild drama, but I've had like a spectrum, dude. Like I've had something as simple as the first time I ever assumed the gender of somebody because of the gender they played in the game.
Rookie.
To leaving a guild based on the drama, to just fizzling out, and still to this day kind of missing everybody.
Wow. So I mean, what happened with the misgendering? What did you survive that, or was that the end of your time in that guild?
No, that was just that I look back on that as just like my early days of being a naive teenager on the internet, because I was playing with the person who I am now married to, and we both thought our guild leader was a girl because they played a girl, and this is probably not even dramatic, but I think about it as a guild story, which is, and then we got into a dungeon run for the first time ever on a TeamSpeak. It would have been TeamSpeak back then, and yeah, just they were clearly they were just like, hey, yeah, I'm Chad. Name wasn't actually Chad. I'm not going to say this person's real name, and we were
that would
like,
be a bit on the nose, wouldn't it? My name's John Rambo.
Yeah, because it was like
not
a
a girl.
good 6 months of just interacting with this person with their in-game character in text, and then both of us were just like, oh my god, we just assumed you were a chick. And that was the end of that. That's probably the most like undramatic story I've got for you.
I mean, that really is. And it was a nice warm-up, Garrett. It was a nice taster. It was a teaser. But I want to hear about the time that you left your guild under a cloud with drama.
Ooh, yes.
And fireworks and lightning.
I've touched on this before because this is tied in to when I discovered my love of tanking. This was tied into it. So at the tail
Wait, hang on.
end,
You're a tank?
Oh God, no, not anymore. Are you kidding
I was
me?
about to say,
I don't
do you want
show
to
up
be in a
to raid
guild?
with enough regularity to get one of only 2 slots. Come on,
Dude, be a tank in our guild. We'll bring you along for Mythic Plus runs every time. Always
Let's
looking for
do
them
it.
tanks, though.
Yeah. Also, there's like a major time difference, and we're not going to get into that. But at the very tail end of Burning Crusade, Taliesin, an expansion I have a feeling in my bones we're going to be talking about again very, very soon.
I wouldn't bet on it, Garrett. I'll be honest. I know what you're saying. It's because everyone's expecting a Burning Crusade Classic announcement at BlizzCon Line. I think I can't see how it could possibly not happen at this stage. I think everyone expects it to happen. One of the pets that you get as part of the BlizzCon Line merchandise for the 30th anniversary of Blizzard is a Netherwhelp, a moon-touched Netherwhelp from Shadow Moon Valley. Which obviously points towards a Burning Crusade thing. On the key art for BlizzCon Line, the picture they've got for because they represent all their games on the key art. So you got Bolvar on there. You've got some Overwatch thing, and the thing they've got for Hearthstone is Illidan. With some Hearthstone cards. So another what people are taking to be a hint at TBC Classic.
There's a much more obvious reason they did that.
Why?
Because Demon Hunter is the first new class they've ever added to Hearthstone, and they added it in the last standard year.
Yeah, but no one cares about
And
Hearthstone.
Illidan is
So
the hero
obviously
that you
they're
pilot when
talking
you play
about
Demon
WoW,
Hunter.
and obviously they're hinting at TBC. Obviously, you'll see.
Obviously.
You'll see. Oh, it's so
Clearly.
fitting. It's so fitting, and they're definitely going to announce it. They, you know, I think a lot of people are getting ahead of themselves, like me. I think there might be something playable as well, which they'll just put out onto a PTR or something like that, like they did with WoW Classic, and open that up sort of during the event. That wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. And that's why you think we might be talking about it on this show, but I don't think we will, Garrett, because I couldn't give a shit.
I was about to say I think I know where you're going with this, which is you're gonna pull the rug out from under us and say, no, it's definitely coming out. I'm just not gonna play it.
Listen, I give a shit because it's big WoW news, okay, and I'm really, really happy for everyone that's gonna play it and enjoy it and who wants it. Just like I'm super happy that Classic exists. You know, something that I find really weird is kind of like retail players kind of dumping on Classic and Classic players dumping on retail. It's like the same game, dude. It's like going, you know, it's like, I can't find a proper analogy, but it's just very silly to do that. It's the same game, and like they, having played Classic and having played retail, they play, like, one of the things that surprised me, having not played vanilla, is how similar they are, like, fundamentally. Like, they're not as different as everyone made out, those two games. And I enjoyed my time in Classic thoroughly. I enjoyed it as a kind of a museum piece, but as a game in its own right. And I had a great time. We streamed it, played a lot of it, put in a lot of hours, and had a wonderful time. I just have no interest in playing Burning Crusade Classic. That's all. And I'm super happy it exists, and I'm not gonna dunk on it. And I like, you know, if it didn't exist, I would want it to exist. And I'd be like, guys, you gotta make Burning Crusade, gotta make it happen. Make it happen. Where is it? It's what the people want. Make it happen. Burning Crusade, come on, bring it on. And like, I would be there. I'd be on the barricades. I'd be on the picket line. I'd be like, where's our TBCC? TBCC. That's what it's gonna be called. TBCC. Which I think is wonderful, by the way.
TBC squared.
Yeah, TBCC. Fantastic.
I like it.
Ah,
I dig it.
And here's the thing: so people in chat are like, "Oh, well, Burning Crusade was much better than vanilla, and what have you." Doesn't matter. Like, I'm sure people have been waiting for it as, like, you know, it's often touted as the pinnacle of WoW, as is, you know, Wrath of the Lich King by some people too. But that honestly just doesn't matter to me. Like, it could be better than Classic, but I still wouldn't play it. Just because I've had my kind of like playing an old game fix, and you know, I think Shadowlands is in a really good state and a really good position. And I'm always going to be more interested in new stuff than I am kind of like reheated old stuff, even if it's really, really
However, I would say if they dropped it right now, I would be very thankful, because I'm a little bored of Shadowlands at the moment.
No way.
But,
no way. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't be in my guild then. Anyway, back to the guild drama. Sorry, carry on. It was the heady days of Burning Crusade. You were learning to tank.
Yeah, it was the very end. It was the tail end of BC. I was learning to tank, and I really enjoyed it. I really, really enjoyed the whole tanking biz. And so Wrath Lich King comes out. I go in. I'm sticking with my hunter, my original main, the first damn thing I ever rolled. You know, raiding with the guild. You know, doing my thing. Probably the quickest I ever took up like a second alt to max level was at the beginning of Wrath of the Lich King. That's just because I was enjoying tanking so much. I also love dungeon runs, and this was before Dungeon Finder. So if you were a tank, instant group, damn near. And then so I really wanted to tank. I wanted to tank for a raid, and you know, so it was right before Old War came out, and you know, we had Nax Ramus on farm, and so I started expressing my desire to tank to the guild. This is an alliance guild on OG NA Lightbringer. Still hanging around. Still mad I didn't buy one of those server blades. And they're like, cool, yeah, you can tank for one of our alt groups. I'm like, all right, that's fine. Listen, I get it. You know, we've got our old faithful tanks. You know, there's only 2 slots. It's a hot commodity. You got to earn pay your dues. You got to earn your tank spot. But they didn't even like give me the B team, Taliesin. I got like the D team.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah, it was
So
rough.
did you expect to just waltz on into the A team?
No, but I was expected to be able to draw some sort of line on being absolutely god awful at this game and barely being able to function within it in terms of your quality of play. Because because that was a thing in our main raid. If you couldn't cut it, you were asked to stop showing up because you were dragging the team down. And this is again before the days of like scaling raid count, like roster sizes and whatnot. So being down on the D team, that was fine. I was happy to do that. But when a certain member of the team died for like the 4th week in a row on the Hagen dance.
Like, I literally thought you were going to tell me that someone in the team died and you were expecting to take their slot and you didn't get offered it and that's why you left. And you were like, whoa, but that dude's dead!
I'm not a great person, Taliesin, and I don't think highly of myself, but I'm not that bad. That's cold. That's cold. I'm just like, oh, thank goodness. A dead person. Can I have their slot? No, Jesus, no.
I mean, as we'll get to later, that is almost how I got into my guild, just so you know.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, hey, to each their own. But yeah, no, they just kept dying on Hagen, like week in, week out. Like we were just slamming our faces against Hagen. Meanwhile, like I've got my hunter in the main raid and we're just like full clearing, like Kel'Thuzad is no issue. It's no problem whatsoever. And like, so this individual, I really don't want to out them. But this individual informed us that they were a keyboard turner, that they refused to learn how to turn their character with a mouse for greater degrees of, movement.
Yikes.
Like fine movement. And all of us were just like, you need to. It's required for this fight. And they just they told us flat out that they're uninterested in learning. And so I went to the guild leader and I was like, hey, man, it's causing some issues. Everyone else is great. Everyone else is fine. Everyone else is pulling the weight. Everyone's willing to learn. Can I please ask this one person to sit it out? And guild leader basically told me, this is all whispers, this was not public to the guild, that, hey, no, yeah, we need you to just placate this person because we don't want to tell them they suck and kick them from the guild.
What a lovely attitude.
Yeah, you just need to, keep them happy so they don't bother us for their main raids. And I was just like,
oh, you were like the babysitter.
Cool. Yeah.
Oh my god. So they weren't being nice. This person was just like the embarrassing uncle who they like sent off to the kids' table.
Yeah.
Go and be racist over there, uncle. It's fine.
Like, I can respect that. Like, I can respect not wanting to hurt people's feelings. I understand where that's coming from. But you also need to understand how that's going to land on someone like me. And I'm just going to go, okay, cool. I'm out. And that's the day I went to Horde. Like, I picked back up that Blood Elf Paladin that I've mentioned multiple times on the show because I think it was chilling around like level 40. Leveled it up, and a classmate in my digital illustration class in art college was leading a guild, and she could not stand one of her tanks, and she's like, "Yo, we're about to kick this tank. Get leveled up. We're going to just run your ass through TOC. We'll get you geared and we'll start running Old War." And I was like, sounds great. I'm there. And never looked back, which is a lie. Actually, I still a lot of friends over there would check back in with them every once in a while. But that was the big, just like, I'm out. I didn't show up the next week.
You just ghosted them? Because this is the fun part, all right? Look, okay, so there are two fun parts to a guild leaving story. Part number one is what made you leave, right? And that's fun. In this case, you don't make yourself look great. Bit of a strop. And then part number two is how you leave. And this is very telling of a person and it will explain a lot about your inner psyche and the real kind of person you are. Whether you're the kind of person that we want, next to us in a scrap or on the battlefield or even as a friend, as a fellow human being. So what did you do? How did you actually leave it with the guild? Presumably you wrote them a nice email explaining all the reasons why. it was happening this way, and you know, it's not you, it's me, and I'm really sorry to let you down, and thanks for the great times in the guild. You guys are awesome. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help you guys out. Like, if you know you're looking for a certain slot, I can send friends of mine that play those classes or whatever your way. You know, let's stay in touch. I've had a really good time. Let's be friends. Something like that, I'd imagine.
So my memory on this is a little fuzzy. So if any of my original guild members are out there in the sound of my voice, feel free to write in and correct me. But I'm fairly certain I was so angry in the moment that I told my fellow tank, my co-tank. I don't like main tank off tank. My co-tank that I was done. I was out. That this had pissed me off, and I was just going to leave. And in true fashion, to this guild's complete inability to have a hard discussion with members of their guild, none of my characters were booted because I didn't server transfer. I just started playing a different character. So they just stayed in the guild forever.
Are they still there now? Could you log on to them right now?
I could. I'm sure one of my alliance alts is still in this guild.
Oh my goodness, I would love to know.
I'm not sure which one, but I'm certain one of them is still chilling in there. But brilliant. Yeah, I mean, you got to think about the time of this too. I think I was like freshly 21, still in college, and just annoyed. So I was just like, I'm out. I'm leaving.
Do you know what I like to think? I like to think if you were to log on to that toon now that's still in the guild, you'd log on and like all the rest of the guildies would be in a semicircle around where your character had logged out from and where you are now when you log back in, with banners and balloons. And as soon as you log back in, they'd be like, surprise! You took a bit longer than we thought, but you're back. We knew you would be. We've been here for quite a while. Do you want to tank? Do you want to tank Carstanathria?
And they're gonna be like, problem person, by the way, still in the raid
Yeah.
and still keyboard turns. I'm just gonna be like,
I also want to say something about your keyboard turning, because I wish to obviously it was causing problems in this instance, right? But I'd like to say a word of defense about not keyboard turning, but you know, my wife Evitel, who you might have heard of, is obviously a WoW player, and she used to, since college days, when she first started playing World of Warcraft, I can't remember what college she went to because she never mentions it, but it was Yale, and she'd sit up at night as she was studying, or supposed to be studying, playing WoW, and on her laptop, right? So she learned how to play WoW, as I'm sure many of us did initially, without a mouse. Okay, so she was using like direction buttons and also the mouse kind of pad on the laptop,
like a laptop.
Yeah, with her thumb.
Yeah, I've known people like this.
Yeah, and she never ever, throughout the whole time that we first got together and we started playing WoW again, she never changed that. And like, I played on a laptop when I was playing with her as well, because she bought me the laptop, she said, so I could write scripts and stuff. Because I'm a published playwright, didn't know if you know that. But like, really, she bought it for me so that we could play WoW together. And the first thing I did was buy a mouse for it and use that. But she always refused to do that. And right up until last year, she would play on the laptop with her thumb on the pad and use that to navigate as one would a mouse. And I always used to laugh at her, and I was like, you can't do that. That's terrible. That's like really bad for everyone on your team and what have you. But then I sat there and I watched her destroy the mage tower with her thumb on the mouse pad. And like,
oh my god, this is all the way. That's more recent than I would have assumed.
Yeah,
and
because that's a legion, and she did it at level. She didn't overgear it. She was just like, and you know, the hunter one was like very movement heavy and very turny heavy, and she was just like, and I've never seen anything like it. It was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen.
Listen, I'm not saying that if you're a keyboard turner, you are inherently the worst World of Warcraft player in the world. If you are good at keyboard turning, go nuts. Much the same way that, like, I wouldn't recommend you play with a trackpad, but if you're destroying the mage tower on it, clearly you know what you're doing.
Fair.
Yeah, it's just like, well, I mean, if you're good at the non-traditional way of controlling this MMO, you know, that's its own thing.
There you go. This episode has to be called I Married a Keyboard Turner. That has to be what this episode is called.
Oh yeah. Oh man, I had a similar experience trying to explain to Katie back when she still played of like, hey, how do you heal without healing add-ons? Because she didn't use any, like none whatsoever, and spent like a week getting her set up, and no, she just was like, nope, I hate this.
I heal without healing add-ons. I don't use healing add-ons. I just use mouse over macros. And I play disc.
Yeah, not even that. I mean, yeah, mouse over macros is part of that, in my opinion.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
okay.
Even that was like too much. She's like, no, what are you talking about? I'm used to having a million spell bars because she came out of vanilla with like no healing add-ons, and she would have multiple ranks of her heals on her bar because that was a thing you did in vanilla, and
wow.
It was difficult. It was difficult.
So I mean, because I famously like really like the WoW UI, and I think the WoW raid frames are much improved from how they were originally, and are incredibly functional.
Yeah, no, I like the WoW.
Yeah,
raid
I'm really
frames.
good, and I just like using them, and I like the WoW UI. I don't use like Elf UI or anything like that, just because I like it to feel Warcrafty, you know, and I like having the lame eagle things at the edge of the bars and stuff, and I think that's cool. And when I joined my current guild, as a healer, as a discipline priest, it was made incredibly clear to me that voodoo for healers was essential. Like it was mandatory. You were not allowed to be a healer in this raid team if you didn't have voodoo. And the idea was that, you know, this is what the heal lead used, and so if the heal lead needed to say something about what was on your bars and stuff, we were all working from the same page, you know. And I was like, yeah, man, voodoo, awesome. So I downloaded voodoo and I installed it. I played with it for about 10 minutes, and I was like, fuck this shit. And I was like, this is horror. This is rubbish. I hate voodoo. And I uninstalled it. And obviously I went to our first raid night, and they were like, okay. And the heal lead, who was lovely, like really nice, I really liked them, they were like, so Taliesin, you got your voodoo all set up? And I was like, yep. And like, cool, well, off we go then. It's brilliant. And I maintained this lie for years that I had voodoo set up. And whenever people were talking about voodoo and what was appearing on voodoo, I was like, and luckily, because I was using the UI, the standard UI, everything always appeared on there. There was nothing like that I ever missed or anything like that. It was not like I was using a different add-on that had different settings and things like that. So I was absolutely fine. But there came a time, of course, when I started this YouTube channel and started streaming and what have you. And, you know, all the footage that I got of me playing this game and me healing in like dungeons and raids and things like that obviously did not feature no voodoo. So I'd start getting like little whispers from people in my guild like, do you not use voodoo? I was like, no, I do. I do use voodoo. It's just I turn it off when I'm getting footage for the channel because... Just because. So just turning it back on now for raid. Turning voodoo back on. Mm-hmm.
I think the only fair way to play this is that your raid mates need to get a cut of the channel revenue, because the quality your search for quality is impacting their runs.
I would argue that they would have a better case to be getting money from my channel if I was in fact using and making money from the footage of me using voodoo, which they had suggested I use. But instead, I didn't take their advice or their inspiration and did my own work instead. So I would argue that it's actually a good argument for them to receive absolutely nothing, which is what they receive.
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair.
So by the way, voodoo is still mandatory in my guild for healers, and we all use it. So don't even know why I started this conversation. Tell me another story about you leaving a guild, Garrett.
Well, that's the one where like that's the only real one where like I made a conscious decision to leave. At some point, I left my first guild, and I cannot remember what the hell happened. I think the guild may have just like disintegrated.
Have you ever been kicked from a guild, Garrett?
I have not been kicked from a guild.
Oh, that's a shame.
No. Not for like dumb reasons, like not logging into a character for like a long amount of time. The AIE guild, which is connected to the instance, I've had tons of alts kicked from that guild because they have a strict, if you haven't logged in 3 months, you're out. And so my alts have been in and out of AIE guilds a billion times. But no, I've never had someone just be like, oh, that Garrett guy is an asshole, we gotta get him out of here. That's just
not that you know of anyway.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm certain those conversations have happened, but clearly somebody was in the wrong enough to think I had enough redeeming qualities to stay that command. So
nice.
But no, the rest of all the rest have been pretty like innocuous. My later Wrathlich, the Horde guild I left for. Earlier on in Wrath of the Lich King, or when Uldor dropped, that went. They kept going after the point where I took a really long break from the show, or from the game. And that was basically because like our raid group imploded, and that was because of Ruby Sanctum. Like Ruby Sanctum kind of killed our raid group, but in like I like realistically, I can't put a lot of blame on Ruby Sanctum because it was just like an extra mini raid as we headed into the expansion lull that every expansion hits, right? It's just like, oh, it's the end of expansion. There's no more content. Sure. Wait for the next thing. Yeah. So like even that, it was just like, it was kind of just the natural ebb and flow of World of Warcraft. And that was heading into Cataclysm. So I took a pretty big break at that point. It was one of the longest breaks I've ever taken from World of Warcraft. So, but yeah, I only have one like real dramatic one. I only have one real dramatic one. There's the other one I don't really. I'll tease saying that there is a guild that I have been on and off with involved that I don't engage with as much as I would like, because they're a little too family friendly for my tastes.
What? What do you mean? Sorry, you can't just say that. Define too family friendly. This shit is just too family friendly.
There's a lot of
these guys
clutching.
Are too nice.
There's a lot of pearl clutching.
Pearl clutching. I see.
Could you not use that language in guild chat? Like,
you're not talking like Polish, are you? You just mean swears.
I need swearing in my casual gaming environment. I require it, because if I'm playing a game, I'm relaxing. And when I relax, Taliesin, you're aware of this, or when I'm very angry, which you are also aware of, I curse like a sailor. When I'm having a good time, I just want to joke around.
It's shocked me since we started this show. I thought you were such a nice man. Turns out you're a horror. Honestly, from day one, I was all like, we decided it was going to be a safe for work podcast, this one. And from day one, you were like, fuck this, fuck that. Chucking in the casual racism. It was horrible. We had to have that little chat. Do you remember? And then we were fine.
I'm really sensitive to pearl clutching, just in general and in life. It annoys the hell out of me. There is no faster way to make me not want to interact with you than clutching pearls.
Well. So, I mean, goodness. And so this is a reason that you kind of phase this guild out, is because you think they're too pearl clutchy.
Yes. Wow. Yes.
Interesting. Yeah. You like your guild's edgelord.
I need a dick joke every once in a while in guild chat. I require it.
We all need some dick joke every now and then, don't we?
I want my eyes to wander over to the green text and just go, I need that every once in a while.
There we go.
If that's not happening.
If you're in a guild with Garrett, the only way to keep him happy in your guild is to constantly send him dick pics. I think that's what you just said.
Yes. No!
But not with pearls wrapped around it. Or something. I was listening, definitely. Dick pics, but not with pearls.
No, only if it's Bolvar. It needs to be Bolvar, because frankly, I'm wondering if it's even still there after the burning.
Well, okay, so listen, I made a whole video about my guild leaving drama. So I don't want to go on about it because I'd like to get onto some of the messages that people are sending us here. But I will just touch on it because it would be remiss not to. But I'm sure I've told it on this show before, so I'm not going to go too far into it. When I first decided I was going to start raiding, I went through a number of guilds on Argent Dawn EU, which is my chosen server. And the first guild, I can't even remember the name of the first guild I joined now. And it was like super casual, super laid back, which for me was okay because I'd never done any proper raiding before. And it was in WoD sometime. I think it was probably Hellfire. And we were going in and I was disc. And at the time, you could not have more than one disc in a raid team because when you cast shield on someone, it left them with a debuff, which meant you couldn't cast shield on them again until that debuff had run out. But the debuff was universal. So if there was another discipline priest in the raid and you cast a shield on someone, they couldn't cast a shield on someone until that debuff had run out. So it was just pointless having more than one disc. It was horrible. And we had like 3 priests in our healing team sometimes when we all turned up. And 2 of us would have to go holy. And the first 2 times we raided, I was allowed to stay disc. And the third time we raided, they went, Tali, can you go, or Myth, because that's my character name, Myth, can you go holy? And I went, yeah, sure. And I G-quit. No conversation. No back and forth. They were like, can you go holy, Myth? And I was like, yep. G-quit. Bye, motherfuckers. And I was gone. And obviously that didn't come out of nowhere. I was a bit frustrated by how like lax and casual like the raiding setup was. They were fine. They were on comms and stuff, and it was nice. And it was my first experience of raiding on comms with complete strangers. Actually, it wasn't, but it was on this character on the EU. And before that, I had raided a little bit before as part of this incredibly casual guild when I was on NA servers during Mr. Pandaria. When I first got into raiding, and that was amazing because because of the time difference, I had to be in like a daytime raiding guild on the NA servers. So it was all made up of old women and like army vets, like people who were on military tours kind of all over the world, and so had like also had like messed up time zones and things like that. And so it was incredible. It was just like these beautiful old people kind of trundling through raid, like incredibly casually, incredibly nicely. It was brilliant, and that was fantastic. And we'd sometimes have to stop pulls in the middle of a pull timer because the tank had to go and feed the cats or what have you. And it was always like, oh, I'm really sorry, we're going to have to stop the pull because I have to go and feed the cats. I was like, oh, good, fine, good. Don't worry, it's 3 a.m. in the morning here where I am. Don't worry about it, though. Absolutely fine. So that's what kind of convinced me to start playing on EU servers in the end when I wanted to raid. And yeah, this first EU guild that I was part of, they were fine, had a lot of laughs, but I was ready to go and try and find a guild where, the raiding was proper and what have you like that. So all it took was the suggestion that I might want to go holy one day. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. No problem. G-quit.
But you... Oh, well, there you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah.
They just said, Myth, can you go holy?
Were, how old were you?
G-quit.
How old were
Off the comms. Bye.
You're a little older than me. How old were you when this happened?
Well, I mean, it would have been 2016 probably, or maybe 2015.
Oh, wow. Okay,
so yeah.
So you are, as a full-ass grown adult, just as petty and dramatic as I was at 21.
So when you're a grown-ass adult, Garrett, you give less and less of a shit, as I'm sure you know. The wonderful thing about growing older is the amount, like the hair on your head and the brain cells in your brain, in your memory, the amount of shits that you have to give just dwindle over time. Which is why old women are like the most hideous creatures on earth, because they don't give no shits. They're in minus shits, okay? Whereas my
I was like, where is he taking
this?
And you took it pretty interesting direction there, Taliesin.
My shits are almost sub-zero. And so like I was just like, yeah, sure, no worries, G-quit. And I was done. You don't stick around somewhere where you're not happy, Like, and I find I'm finding that in my everyday life much more. I give a few more shits now I've got a son. My son being born has
honestly, I feel like
blossom.
I feel like I'm almost opposite of that, because like this when I dramatically was just like ghosted people, that it was very much like my like minimum wage, high school, college job, part-time job mentality with like a manager I couldn't stand. It's just like, well, I don't get paid enough to give a shit, so I'm leaving. I quit. Bye. Like, and that mentality has drastically changed at this point. But I don't know. We're getting philosophical.
I've always had what has been described by many managers in jobs that I've worked as having a problem with authority. It will shock you to learn. Because I've always been an actor, but I have done other jobs as well on the side, because actors do.
I don't know what you're talking about, Taliesin. Anytime I've ever had a suggestion on how you should technically come at this podcast, it's always been met with, "Yes, I'll get right on that."
Yeah, exactly. For you, I give a shit, right? And I work very hard. But I also, you suggesting you have authority? Is that what's? Whenever I, as the boss, Garrett, have told you to do something, I'm just saying your report card at the end of this financial year is not looking good, Tali.
In this relationship, it has always worked out. It has always worked out.
And I've been told that I have a problem with authority in other jobs. But yeah, it's not even that I've not given a shit about the job, because I always take any job I do very seriously, and I kind of pride myself on that. Even like very bad jobs that I've had, like working my first ever job was working in a hotel, like literally as a pot boy, cleaning dishes and stuff when I was like 15, right? And I worked incredibly hard at that for 3 days before I got sacked, and I got sacked for dyeing my hair pink, and they didn't like that, even though I was a pot boy. It's very strange. But I have been known to have a problem with authority, including when I used to work on tour buses. I used to be a tour guide of London. I used to work for this company that I really didn't like, because I felt they treated their workers very, very badly, and they did. I used to get into a lot of trouble there because I didn't put up with any of their shit, but I was quite a good tour guide. And every time that I kind of pushed back, and like multiple times I told managers there to suck my balls and walked off and went home in the middle of a shift because I didn't like what they were telling me. And I never got sacked. And in fact, every time it happened, like, it cemented my position in this company, which was horrifying, including one time where I almost got into a fight with one of the people working on the pavement, and they came in and not to bore you, but they told everyone to get onto a different bus, to swap onto a different tour bus, and I was like, nah, we're not doing that. We're staying on this one. And we almost got into a physical altercation, and I got sent to the head honcho of the entire company one day, and I had to sit there in the office while they went through it, and they were like, so what happened? And I was like, yeah, and the dude came on the bus, man, and he said he was going to fight me. And I was like, no, you're not. And I went home. And they're like, were you physically intimidated? I was like, not really, because I think I could take him. And and they loved that, and I was like their golden child from then. I could do no wrong, basically. So anyway, that's how little shit I give. But okay, so that's why I left that guild, and then I went looking for a good guild where I could raid with properly. And this is where my real kind of guild leaving story comes from. Is I found a guild the way that every player should find a guild. I went onto WoW Progress, and I went through. I ignored the first 2 pages of WoW Progress on my server because they were too good, obviously. It's like when you go to a restaurant, right? And when you get the wine list, yeah? You're not going to start with the good wines. You're not going to start at the bottom of that menu, are you? Because you're not going to buy any of those wines. But you're not going to buy the cheapest wine either. So you do what every person scientifically proven does when they have a wine menu in a restaurant. You buy the second cheapest wine. Which is why every restaurant puts their worst wine as the second cheapest wine, because they know that's the one everyone buys. But everyone buys the second cheapest, and this is what I did. This is how I chose my guild. Was I ignored all the good ones, but I didn't want the absolute worst ones. So I kind of chose like the guild progress equivalent of like the second cheapest wine. And I found like a few guilds that were recruiting specifically discipline priests, and I applied to them. And I eventually found the guild that I'm currently in, Immortalis. And they were looking for a discipline priest, specifically because their discipline priest had broken both of his hands in a motorbike crash.
Oh, you have told this one. This one
Yeah.
I really do remember. Yeah, that is ridiculous. That person came back, if I remember the story correctly.
He is.
Yes.
I would count him as a very, very dear friend now, because like our guild, we go on holiday together and stuff, and we hang out all the time. And he's a guy called Sem. He also streams. You should check out his stream. And he's a wonderful man. He's like literally one of my favorite people in the entire guild, and therefore the world these days. But yeah, I am only in this guild, and he rides motorbikes and really loves it. When we had a meetup in London, he rode a motorbike from his own European country to London for the meetup, and it was like, wow, okay, mate. And like, but he was in an accident and he broke both of his hands, and therefore there was a slot open for discipline priest, and I took it. And Sem has played holy ever since, because when he came back, it was like, sorry, mate,
Jeez.
got a discipline priest now. How are your hands?
Jeez, that's. I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. So I took his place.
You
I took his
figured it
place.
out. You figured it out.
I took his place in the raid.
March is on. If you came to me one day, Taliesin, and were like, I broke both my hands, I'm not going to be able to do the show for a few weeks. Well, my first reaction would probably be like, well, you don't need hands to podcast, but I understand. I would throw Evitel on here in a heartbeat, and you would just have to deal.
Yeah, fill the slot. Totally. But yeah, so I took his place in the guild. I became the guild discipline priest. Because my application was very good. You had to do it. I'd never join a guild now that you don't have to do like a written application for either. So and that this guild had all the guilds I found in WoW Progress that I thought about applying to. I checked out if they had a website. And again, I wouldn't apply to a guild that didn't have a website or anything like that. So because we want to see a bit of effort, don't you?
Dude, I'm over this. What is this, like joining a Counter-Strike clan in 1998? Like, I'm not interested in your online forum. I'm not doing this.
Really? I mean, I know I'd insist on it, and that's the thing. Like, that's why you could never be in my guild, because you'd never pass the application process. And and also, mate, your logs are trash. But anyway, I was discipline priest. I took his place, and I started raiding with them. Installed Voodoo, uninstalled it, and had a jolly old time. Like, did Hellfire Citadel at the end of WoD, and it was the first time I had ever killed the end boss of a raid in World of Warcraft. Despite having played it for many, many years at that point, and multiple expansions, it was the first time I'd ever killed the last boss of a raid, let alone
how
the
is this
expansion,
not...
at normal level or higher. And we did it at heroic.
How has this not been an episode topic?
What do you mean?
The first end raid boss you killed at like proper level.
Oh, what was yours?
Because mine was Prince in Karazhan.
Ah, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic, and it was really fun. And we killed who's the final boss of Hellfire? We killed Jaden's brother. Archimon, thank you. We killed Archimon on heroic, and then we kind of went on a bit of a raid break a little bit after that. And then Blizzard introduced the Moose Mount for killing Archimon heroic, and we all had to go back in there, and we were very rusty to try and kill Archimon and get our Moose Mount, and we did. It was very good. And that was all jolly. Sem came back for Emerald Nightmare when Legion launched. Wasn't allowed to play disc. Had to go holy, even though you could have more than one disc at that point, but no one wanted to play disc anyway. It's trash. And all was well. All was well in the guild, Garrett. It was fantastic. We went through Emerald Nightmare. It was a bit frustrating. I was having trouble with disc because it was a nightmare at the beginning of Legion. No one knew how to play it. No discs were doing well. We were all a complete waste of space. Me in particular, because I'm a trash player. But we got through Emerald Nightmare. Discipline Priest started picking up again in the Suramar raid, the Nighthold. And this was where the problems started. Because our guild, we did that thing where, we progress normal and heroic. And then when we kill heroic, we dip our toe into a bit of mythic, So we did Emerald Nightmare pretty quick on heroic. And, we'd go and we'd kill the first, 3 or 4 bosses in mythic. Like a bit of Ursoc. Easy, And that's how we like to do it. That's how we did it. But our guild leader at the time, who, by the way, is a lovely man and a brilliant man and was very kind to me when I joined the guild and helped me out a lot, had this thing where he wanted to be like a mythic raid leader. So he would run the heroic team as if it was a mythic raid. And when we went into Nighthold, we were having trouble with a lot of bosses. And he got into the habit of cutting people from the team for various fights, whether or not anyone really thought it was necessary, because a lot of the time he wasn't cut, like it was clear that he wanted to cut down the team to what he considered to be like the elite mythic team, right? And he wanted to just do heroic with that team, basically. So the slightest bit of struggling, and he would find an excuse to cut people from the fight. And this often wouldn't be kind of eloquated or told to people until they actually joined the raid. And people take time out. I was working on the tour buses at the time, so I made sure to kind of get shifts, and lose money so that I could be home in time to raid on the nights when we were raiding, which was 3 nights a week at the time, And we were doing Nighthold, and there was this amazing person, amazing couple, this Danish couple, who are still in the guild, and who were raiding with us at the time. And he would always, the raid leader, cut the girlfriend, the druid. Always. For any reason. Would always want to cut... Oh, am I buzzing? People saying
you are buzzing, yeah.
One sec. Is that better? No.
Nope.
No. 1 sec. Sorry.
Worse.
Yeah.
Maybe it's gone?
How's that?
That is good. Let me pause the audio recording real quick, give myself a blip. Okay, cool.
Okay, cool.
Continue.
And he'd always cut, like, the druid. And this poor druid would have to sit there watching her boyfriend, because they raided in the same room, watching her boyfriend play the rest of the raid, a monk healer, hoping, like, waiting for them to kill the boss so that she might get invited back. And it was so sad. It wasn't the raid leader's girlfriend. It was another person in the raid's girlfriend. And that used to really upset me, and I didn't like it because, whatever. And who cares? I know. A lot of people will be wondering why that was upsetting to me, but it did. And it was just like any excuse to cut the team. And this happened week after week after week. And it was clearly frustrating a lot of people. We had someone G-quit in the middle of a raid without saying anything. Like I had in my last guild, just like G-quit and disappeared from our raid. And tensions were getting a bit high within the guild, despite the fact that...
Yeah, that's kind of a sign.
Yeah. The raid leader, I'm going to reiterate this, was a lovely man and is a lovely man, and I don't hold any grudge or anything at all. And my purpose in telling this story is not to mock the raid leader in any way, because I want it known that if they wanted to come back into the guild right now, and be part of the team again, I would bite his hand off to have him back in the team, because he was really funny, a really good guy, and a great player. However, it got to a breaking point for me personally, where we just killed the worst boss for me personally in the Nighthold, which was the gardener boss. You know, the gardening boss, like
yes,
yeah, hideous. And we moved on to Elisand, with all the time orbs and things like that, the penultimate boss of the entire raid. And we were going to Taliesin. We just killed Botanist for the first time, and everyone was really thrilled and really happy. And yeah, we did it, guys. We did it. Despite not being very good, we did it. And we were on our way to heroic Elisand. And, we had like half an hour left of raid. And the raid leader said, okay, so we've got half an hour to just bop Elisand. Now, don't worry, because this is not a DPS fight. This is not a DPS check, okay? This fight is all about the dance. And that's absolutely right. It's all about just, managing the orbs and doing the dance and avoiding the orbs and things like that. And so all I want to see from you guys in this first half hour is learning the moves. Don't worry about DPS. Ignore it. It's not a DPS check. Just concentrate on learning the moves, please. And then we'll tackle it properly when we come back next raid. And we were all like, yeah, awesome. Everyone was in like really good spirits. And we went into Elisand and we did one pull. And a lot of people died in the orb. And we were like, okay, cool. We did another pull. A lot of people died in the first orb. But different people. And we were like, awesome, great. and we did a third pull, and a lot of people who hadn't died in the orb first time died in the orb, and a lot of people who had died in the orb first time didn't die in the orb. So it's like, spread out. And we were like, okay, cool, this is exactly what we said we were going to do. We're just learning the dance. And we went in for the fourth pull. And the raid leader said, I don't think we've got the DPS for this. I'm going to cut some people. And I logged out.
Yep.
And I decided at that moment that I was going to leave the guild because it just wasn't working for me, the whole approach. I was like, that's not what I want from this guild or from any raiding guild, that kind of approach. And, I'm not saying it's wrong, it's just not what I wanted. And I didn't want to cause any drama, so I logged out and I decided to leave the guild. And by that point, I had started the YouTube channel and it had started to gain a little bit of kind of momentum and notoriety and stuff. So people in the guild knew that I had a YouTube channel and that it was semi-popular. And I was very hyper aware of this. And the last thing I wanted to do was cause any drama at all. I especially didn't want it to look like I thought I was some Bertie Big Bollocks with a YouTube channel who was making any demands or anything like that.
That's fine, but you did kind of drop it on the table. That's basically what you did.
Not only, okay, but I inadvertently started a coup, but I didn't mean to, okay? And here's what happened. To avoid drama, I thought the best thing to do would be to G-quit in the middle of the night when there's no one online, okay? So no one sees me G-quit, so it's not like a statement. It's not like a grand gesture or anything like that. It's not like an FU. And that's what I did. I G-quit, and then on the forums, our guild forums on our website, I wrote an email, a private email to the raid leader and saying, "Oh, hi mate, just so you know, I'm leaving the raid team on my disc, and the reason I'm leaving is just 'cause I'm not really on board with the whole cutting the team at every opportunity. You're the boss and that's what you're doing, but it's not really what I want, so I'm going to try and find a different raid team on this character. Thank you for everything. I didn't want to cause any drama, which is why I G-quit privately, and I'm just messaging you now to tell you. I haven't told anyone else. It's not really a big deal. If you see fit, I would really appreciate it if I could keep some alts in the guild, just so I could chat to people who are my friends in this team." And when I logged in the next day, all my alts had been kicked, and it was all over. I was out of the guild, and I was like, "Oh well, never mind." And I moved on with my life until a couple of days later. I got a message from other guildies like, "Yeah, you inadvertently started a coup, and the raid leader's gone now. Do you want to come back to the guild?"
I was about to say, yeah. This is Immortalis, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I didn't do it on purpose by any means, but the raid leader hadn't taken that message very well and had gone on for a bit of an explosion on the guild forums, told everyone that they were trash, but particularly me, even though I couldn't read the guild forums because I'd been kicked. I had no characters in the guild at this point, and then just left. And I got invited back in the guild, and we completed that raid with a new raid leader, and it's been really lovely ever since. And we've kept a kind of an ethos of not really kicking people from the guild. We had to cut the team down a little bit on Sludge Fist this raid, because that really is a very tight DPS check, and we were just struggling, and a healer left the raid one night, and we couldn't heal it. So the raid leader made the decision to cut a couple of DPS melee because Sludge Fist, and that's the first time we've done that since the raid leader left, because it's just been the ethos not to. And I've got to say, for me personally, it's a lot more what I wanted from the guild. And that's when we started going on holiday together and having meetups and stuff. So it worked out very well. But that was my dramatic guild leaving story, which many of you will have heard before, but many of you won't have.
Joining after sparking revolution.
Yeah, inadvertent coup. The accidental anarchist. And the guy that stepped up to be the raid leader at the time, just for the rest of the expansion, was amazing, and our current raid leader is amazing, and it's all good. So hooray! Anyway, we did get a lot of kind of whispers and emails and tweets in reply with your own stories. Did we get any replies to your tweet asking for
yes.
guild drama stories?
Oh, yes. Quite a few. I want to start with Daniel's because it is in such wonderful Twitter format. It is super brief and yet maximum drama.
Brilliant.
So Daniel555 on Twitter replied by teeing this up by saying, this guild was known for drama. And then continues by saying, Priest had an affair with a demon hunter. And I love that they're just using class names for this. That a priest ran off, had an affair with demon hunter, and then the priest and said demon hunter ran away together, like straight up eloping to another country after said priest got pregnant with twins.
Whoa.
The guild is still technically together, but that was when I decided to leave as well. Oh yeah. That's like a Lifetime original movie right there, but it took place in Azeroth.
Wow. That is a high bar.
Boy, that's wild. Also, I love the idea of this playing out actually in World of Warcraft, like a priest. Let's make this even more in-universe appropriate. Priest is like, in a long relationship with a paladin, and just elopes with the demon hunter.
Filling
overnight.
in your own gaps. I like it.
Yeah. God, could you imagine? Would you want to stay in this house of drama and?
Hey man, we've had some drama. Like IRL drama, with relationships and things like that in our guild.
Yeah, I mean, I've mentioned before that I took a long break after a particularly bad breakup because I was playing with this person.
Thanks. Yeah, that's hard.
It happens. It happens.
Gutted. Yeah, and I imagine lots of guild were a lot of guild drama is kind of based around that, right? Around, like, whenever I'm listening to Preacher's drama time, it's always someone doing the sex with someone else that causes the problem. It's always the sex that is the problem. Maybe your pearl clutching group, we're onto something.
It's remarkably analogous to my experience in the food service industry. Stay away from the dry goods area. Never go.
Oh gosh. But maybe that's the way. If you want a successful guild, the guild that doesn't do the sex together stays together. I don't know, maybe. Mind you, there's lots of couples in our guild as well. So.
Or the guild that are in healthy marriages stay together.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. I guess so.
Yeah. Whatever form that may take. But oh man, I know Twitter doesn't have 140 characters, but I'm fairly certain Daniel managed to keep it under that. But way to keep a story juicy and dramatic and under 140 characters or less. That's solid there, Daniel. What do you want to bounce to Twitch DMs?
Yeah, the first whisper I got when I put the call out was from Ibrahim. He said, I haven't read all these in advance, by the way, because I've got so many. So goodness knows where this is going. I left my guild because of the toxic guildmaster's girlfriend who had an immunity and she sucks big time. Saw my Discord photo and decided to be racist towards Arabs.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's
not where I was expecting the story to go. I was expecting Ibrahim just to be upset that she wasn't a very good player, which is unlike Ibrahim, who's a very lovely person. But yeah, the whole racism thing, you can't be going with that, right? You can't be okay with the racism thing.
That is dark. And okay, so all right, hold on. I'm gonna jump right into a Twitter reply because it is sadly along the same
I'm really
lines.
sorry. This isn't over.
Oh, this is still going.
There's more.
Okay.
She was also really happy about getting people to have to G-quit. She had a list. They wanted me back because the co-GM loves me. I rejoined. They kept a muzzle on her. She is super toxic to everyone. Then came Shadowlands. They were talking about everyone picking their BIS covenants for raiding. And I'm a Venthyr aesthetic type of person. I went to Bastion for the good of the guild. She, the tank, went to the wrong covenant. And I saw that the Go BIS rule did not apply to her. So it was a farewell from me. And that's why you are a baller, Ibrahim, because you took the racism on the chin. But she went a non-BIS covenant and you were out. It's like, look, the racism I can stand, but don't you be going Necrolord when you should be going Bastion, right?
Dear.
If you want to be racist
God.
against me, that's okay. But just make sure you're in the BIS covenant, okay? I think we can all relate to that story.
I mean, props for like wanting to like stick it out for your fellow guildies who are not racist pieces of garbage. But jeez.
I mean that's like an instant G quit, right? If someone just
the
is
only
dropping
reason
some racism,
I'm laughing
right?
is because it is insane to me that there's any more to that story past like
Yeah.
reported and I'm out. Like that's the only reason. Like my goodness, yeah, that's terrible.
Like and you know, I mean, obviously, if someone just dropped some racism in my guild chat, we would just kick that person right from the guild. It wouldn't be like I'm going to leave the guild because I saw some racism chat.
No,
but you know, if I was in a guild and that was like the de facto setting, you know, if people were kind of tolerant of kind of in chat racism or kind of sexism or homophobia or like, you know, using words even that I don't like people using on my stream and stuff, which aren't technically TOS, but they are TOS for me. Like that would be reason enough for me to just instantly up and leave a guild if I saw that shit going on.
Same, yeah, and that's
let alone
that's
if I saw people in the wrong covenant.
I have a thought on this too, and I almost it's like it's kind of serious, but I want to mention it after this because we got a Twitter reply that's along similar lines. So Craft Rodeo replied on Twitter and said, "In Wrath, I was a guild master of a small guild. About half the team was LGBT. It wasn't like a specific guild to the LGBT community or anything. It was open to everyone. One day, our priest called someone, I'm just going to say an extremely offensive word for a member of the LGBT community. And my officer was was openly gay and called him out and said not to use that word. I put up the rules on the site about hate speech, race, religion, etc. Well, then the drama ensued, and I had no idea how many violent homophobic people we had. Some of the most awful things were said, which caused half of us to leave the server, which that's just
nuts.
insane to me. And the like, so the kind of the serious angle I want to take to this is like, this is the kind of an interesting thing I see with online gaming in general, is that like you don't know who you're playing with, and if you are racist or homophobic or whatever, and then suddenly one day people you've been playing with for weeks, for months, for years, however long you've been in this guild, or this applies to any online game, one day you just suddenly find out that someone is the race that you're prejudiced against or has a sexual orientation that doesn't jive with your worldview, which, like, wouldn't that be a wake-up call to you that, oh, it doesn't fucking matter?
It's crazy. It's crazy to me, and it doesn't surprise me at all because, like, I mean, my goodness, like, it's tragic, but it's true. Like, as a streamer, you know, all I have to do to get some actualies in chat, even in my amazing community, you know, and like no one in my actual community would do this, but like lots of people watch the stream who aren't in the community really, and stuff like that. They don't stay very long. If I want to get people angry, some people guaranteed to actually me in the chat, all I've got to say is I don't think white people should be allowed to use the N-word, and guaranteed in chat within a minute there'll be someone like, oh, why not though? Because actually, Taliesin, why not? And it's like, yeah, taking the trash out today. Blop, 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 bam, bam, bam. And it's amazing. And it still blows my mind today. Yeah, it's crazy. It's like, yeah, it never fails. I
don't get, you know, far be it from me, a straight white male, to like want to grandstand on this issue, but it just seems so obviously bonkers to me that you would get along with someone just fine because there's the wall of the game in between you. You don't know what they represent in the real world, and then when that veil is dropped and suddenly it confronts some sort of prejudice that lives inside you, that's not a wake-up call to you that you have a fucked up mindset.
It's
like, I
absolutely
don't get
crazy.
it.
Yeah,
like it boggles my mind.
Me too.
I do not get it. And yeah, I think both individuals who wrote in did the right thing, which was there should be zero tolerance for this in my mind, and you should get the fuck out of this horrible situation. wow. Yeah, that's oof. That's nuts.
Yeah.
That's just so rough. It just bums me out that there's still people like this in the world. And that shit like this doesn't like slap him in the face with, oh, hey, maybe I'm the horrible person in this scenario.
Well, you in this scenario probably not.
No.
Oh,
I was
the other person.
as,
Yeah, are we the
as
baddies?
the racist
Yeah, all that.
or
Totally.
prejudiced individual. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe it's time to rethink your entire life when you get to that point. So, yeah, geez. Also, you're playing a game. You're playing in a fantasy world with tons of races and creeds that all get along and work together for the common good. Like.
This one is probably quite a familiar story to a lot of people. From Dinosaur, OMG Dinosaur, says, my story's nothing that bad, but I have one. I used to run with this guild with various mix of player skill level. The good players would always threaten to leave if we had a bad night, or they would just be so passive-aggressive with critical criticism rather than constructive. During one raid in Legion, it was particularly bad one night, and when the good players started bitching, literally 120 plus almost entire raid team of us just G-quit immediately and left the raid after a particularly big pull. What, you waited for the pull and then you all G-quit? That's fire. That's an excellent
more
raid,
dramatic than
guild leaving
Taliesin's
story,
exit.
has to be said.
That is more dramatic than Taliesin's
That doesn't
exit, for
happen
sure.
enough these days. Back in the day, it always used to be if you were about to leave a dungeon group or a raid group, you'd always pull the boss before you went.
I serious thought is that it's because I think as a WoW audience are kind of all getting older together, and we all kind of have a certain degree of no longer giving a shit, and so I think it's more likely that everyone knows where each other stands in terms of pain points in regards to raiding and other group activities. that you probably aren't. You're less inclined in your 30s and 40s and so on to just sit there and let things boil up to the point where you're like, you know what? Cast Judgment, Bubble Hearth, see ya.
Just to add to that one, by the way, as an amendum, it was not discussed before. It was just one of those hive mind moments. So they all just left in the middle of a pull. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Wow.
That is bravo for the drama. Like that is just like mwah, chef's kiss. Just such a delightful exit. So well done. So well done. Like we got one person right in. Kieran said, back in Wrath of the Lich King, our guild leader had to step down due to having a new baby and not having enough time, which you might think Talia said, okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
Life changes, as do priorities. But Kieran continues. However, there was so much turmoil and dispute over who he should give the new lead to that this guild leader eventually broke down crying on TeamSpeak and disbanded the whole guild instead.
So the guild leader broke down crying on TeamSpeak, and then presumably about 10 minutes later, the other people on TeamSpeak heard him breaking down and crying on TeamSpeak because the delay on that thing was obscene. I hated TeamSpeak so much.
I wasn't sure you were going to take that. Yeah, dude, TeamSpeak was the pits.
We used Ventrilo, and it was horrible.
I liked Vent, but again, I went to Vent from TeamSpeak, and so by like comparison, it was so much better. Like it was just like, oh my god. Yeah, I'm back to using Mumble, by the way. One of the groups I went with right now, they're Mumble users.
Really?
And, the audio quality is great. It's really solid. But
has it done a No Man's Sky? Has it turned it around? Is it like?
I mean, it's still like janky, like connect to server, go in. Like I'm like, oh my god, just let me log in with my Gmail, like everything else on God's green earth at this point. But yeah, once you're in, I mean, it's hard to argue. I mean, it freaking works, and it's lightweight, and yeah, so it's been an interesting side story of my Shadowlands experience using Mumble again. But yeah, I mean, it gets the job done.
Wow.
Gosh.
I mean, I actually contributed to monetarily to our Ventrilo servers.
I was so broke.
That makes the
thing.
G quit harder. Gotta say, that makes it sting more. When you're leaving
yeah,
the guild and you're like, I put 20 quid in for the ventrilo.
I mean, it's kind of like leaving a toxic roommate relationship, right? It's like, hey, I split that cost on that TV. I left a TV behind when I moved back to Florida from Southern California.
One of the hardest things, yeah. I remember once I had a girlfriend who we went to like a toy shop once we went to Hamleys in London, which is this huge toy shop. And we were just walking around and we were looking at like the Xboxes and stuff. And I was like, oh, wouldn't that be nice? And then when we got back to the car, she was like, hey. And she opened the boot and she bought an Xbox 360, right? And it was like, oh, you legend. You're amazing. Thank you. And as this is a present for you, but just so you know, if we split up, I'm keeping it. And I was like, yeah. And then a year later, we split up. And she did keep it. Yeah, she did keep it a year later.
True to her word. Yeah. All I got to keep because that was a breakup that ended up in me moving back to Florida. All I got to keep was a coffee maker, which was a lot cheaper than the TV. So,
oh no, your camera's disappeared, Garrett.
Well, there it is.
There it goes. You just overheat. Is that what happened?
This time of day, the sun is on this side of the house, so this room is at its hottest, which tends to murder the DSLR.
Yeah. So. Now this, I feel like people just listening to this podcast should know that Garrett is still here. We can still see Garrett, but he's just like much less attractive now. There's less lovely blur in the background. The lighting just isn't, because he's on not such a good camera now. And I just want you to know, because I wouldn't want you to imagine that he still looked as good as this conversation was happening. Like, he looks markedly worse. It's important to me that everyone listening to this show knows.
It makes it through any podcast past 2 p.m. No problem.
Oh, it's just the morning sun that overheats your camera?
The morning sun is on this wall that's directly in front of me. And so the hottest this room ever is this time of day.
Wow. Okay, yeah. This will be a familiar story to lots of people as well. This is from the Action Man. A guild in vanilla was run by a family that would break their own loot rules to give loot to themselves. A family guild nepotism would give loot to themselves.
That's
disgusting.
I mean, I want to know more. Did you, like, when you joined the guild, was it just like, welcome to guild nepotism?
Yeah, pretty much.
We can give loot to our family members and the rest of you can die in a fire.
Who wants this double-handed sword? Well, Ivanka is a hunter, but I think she should have the sword. I think
were they upfront about it? Like, did you... Oh, Action Man is in the chat room. Nope, we had to follow the rules, but they didn't. Wow.
Right. One time the GM gave loot to a non-family member. The son-in-law threw a massive tantrum. GM said he was coming over to kick his ass. Immediately logged out of the TeamSpeak and the game.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, it happens.
Beautiful.
Right?
Yeah, and that is that kind of story that Ian Hazacostas is thinking of when he gets rid of Master Loot. That's the kind of story we can't have anymore. Ian Hazacostas killed this kind of story. He killed the memes. The day that Ian killed the memes.
He also got rid of my ability to borrow massive amounts of gold from friends in the guild to go buy flying, because that's not how we get it anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
How dare you?
Here's the thing, right? So a lot of people in chat right now saying, family guild, stay away from the family guild. And I'm always a bit hesitant to jump on that bandwagon because obviously, I am in a guild with my wife. We have no power or influence in the guild. We're not officers, or we certainly have no say in who's in the raid team or the guild in general. But, we are a husband and wife team in the guild. So I'm always a bit wary of kind of automatically ruling out family guilds. But this one does sound bad. Absolutely.
That sounds obviously unfair and vaguely toxic. So, yeah. There you go.
Any more on the Twitter?
I think Charlie P kind of rounds up the pattern of kind of similar replies we got by saying, revive popular guild on old server, move servers to have larger player base to attract, recruit, get server first, infighting starts, GM moves guild, takes all the stuff, most players stop quitting or playing, or sorry, stop playing, disheartened, next expansion, come back, do it all over again, rinse, repeat. And we got so many replies that were along this line.
The efficiency of that reply is beautiful.
Here.
I would even go as far as to say it was very Welsh. I would call that, and I'm changing the name here, I'd call that a Carrie Mitchell response. There was a girl in my school who wasn't called Carrie Mitchell, but who I'm going to call Carrie Mitchell for the sake of this story. I went to you wouldn't guess my amazingly eloquent voice, right? But I went to quite a rough high school, quite a rough comprehensive school in Swansea. And one of the beautiful kind of features of Welsh people is their forthrightness and their frankness. And one day we had a teacher not turn up for one of our classes, and I was in quite a notorious form class, and we were all sitting around, and bearing in mind most people in the class are around 14, 15 at this stage, and the topic of conversation got onto how we lost our virginity, and
goodness gracious,
it got round to Carrie Mitchell, and Carrie Mitchell gave a response quite a lot like that, and in the way that you read it out, and she just went, right, well, I was in Ritzy's nightclub, in the toilet, thought it was a finger. End of story. And everyone just went, right, great. Not that surprising, really. I was in Ritzy's nightclub, in the toilet, thought it was a finger.
That is a Spartan story. That is...
But I'm just saying, that last story that you read, it made me think of that, and its forthrightness, and I appreciate that forthrightness. We all do.
Boy.
Let it never be said that we ever get off topic on this show.
Never let it be said that I don't pearl clutch from time to time.
Yeah, I thought you loved the edge, mate. I thought you were like, don't go clutching your pearls on me now, Garrett.
That's a level of personal sharing that makes me pause. I was also bracing. I was just like, oh God, Taliesin, please do not tell me that we're about to exchange those stories, because I am not. We're
not. Listen, that's going to be in many years' time on this show when there's just no WoW news one week. Right?
We're going to be doing this show in our 60s, and I truly will give just no more Fs. And I'm just going to be like, yeah, let me tell you about this time. That's as much as anyone is getting of that story. Yeah. Any more Twitch DMs, or are we?
I'm just going to finish on this. We've got loads, by the way. I could fill hours with this stuff. And I'm just skimming through them and trying to pick out ones that kind of catch the eye. So this is gonna be the last one. But thank you to everyone who did respond to the cry. Maybe I'll keep hold of them. We'll do another episode on this in the future. But Doombork says, okay. So the long and short is a bit of the identity of character mishap. But I used to play as a human priest. I thought dude priests looked dumb in their robes, so I made a lady priest. Somehow, I lucked my way into a guild. Somehow. But of course, being younger, my parents said, don't talk to strangers, so I never spoke on comms. I became the mysterious girl who doesn't talk. For those of you not keeping up with the story, it's not really a girl, it's a boy. It's a girl. It's a boy, okay? But playing as a girl. And I never, of the guild, and I never bothered to correct them. Of course, eventually, it came to a head when the guild leader messaged me after I was complaining about flying training being too expensive at 5k gold. He had made me an offer. Lewds for gold.
Oh my God.
Of course, being a something-year-old teen boy, I was in the not okay with this area of things. But I needed that gold. So, of course, I did what any rational person would do. I stole a choice picture from the internet, cropped out the site name, and I sent it. After I snagged the 5k in pocket and bought my flying, I told the GM's wife and booked it out. Of course, a healer leaving and a girl leaving brought many whispers. Everyone who asked what happened, I told. Guild very quickly imploded, all over cold weather flying. Not quite over cold weather flying. I think you're not quite.
Hey, Taliesin, let's do something no one ever does on podcasts. I think this requires a round of applause.
Well played, well played. Things that managed to happen in that story. You outed a creepy guy. You owned the creepy guy for Warcraft Gold. You probably destroyed that creepy guy's marriage. Rightfully so. The creepy guy destroyed his marriage. And the guild imploded. Happy days all round.
And you did it while looking at porn. So
yeah,
I mean,
you had a lovely evening choosing your photos.
Just line them up. Yep.
But I mean, and that's the thing. I feel like it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, with people kind of telling on themselves and outing themselves, and the way we shouldn't be surprised about any of this kind of despicable behavior online. And it is true. Like, it's very easy for us as guys to kind of when kind of women, female gamers tell us their stories. Of the way they're treated and the way they're spoken to, and how it's like this never-ending stream of basic misogyny and comments. And I always think of it as maybe death by 1,000 cuts. It's like it's just this constant, always being reminded that you're a girl, always having people making comments, always having people like approaching for lewds and things like that. And like, it's very easy for us as guys to kind of go, I don't really think that behavior exists in the magnitude that you're talking about it or describing it. But it does, doesn't it? It just really does. And it must suck. And I'm just sorry. I feel icky and I need a shower now.
It's the same. I was about to say, I'm sure you're exposed to it working with Evitel on a daily basis.
Oh yeah, tell me about
it. Get to see a lot of this, yeah, and yeah, same working with Jocelyn over on the Angry Chicken. Some of the shit I've seen is just, ugh.
Yeah.
It's not cool.
Well, downer, but that was an excellent story. Thank you, Doom.
Yeah,
much appreciated.
Boy, that really took a turn. I was just like, okay, that's creepy. I'm assuming you out them. It's like, oh no, you
burn that shit to the ground.
Justice.
Yeah.
You went for internet justice, and for that, I thank you. We got one I have to share because I do find it amusing, and I think it'd be fun to end on another funny and short note. Professor WC tweeted, "Final week to get the immortal achievement in Nax before Ulduar. Guild leader says that he will kick anybody who dies and ruins the achievement. His roommate microwaves a burrito in the middle of the Kel'Thuzad fight, shutting off his internet and killing him. Guild disbanded the next day." What shitty Coxer or Comcast cable modem was this person running? Microwaving a burrito, killed their router. Oh my god. Oh, that's great. That's great. And I'm just now remembering that I think earlier in the episode I was like, yeah, the new Horde Guild carried me through TOC to gear me up before Ulduar, but I had that backward. They carried me through Nax because TOC was technically after Ulduar, but it was also kind of like a half-step raid. But I'm sure we're gonna get emails about that one, Taliesin.
Yeah. Well, like I say, I've got a backlog now of like tens of guild stories that we can sift through, and we'll come back to this maybe sometime. On a quiet week.
By burrito. Death by burrito. Pick like two of your favorites, and we'll include them in the next mailbag.
Yeah, okay, I'll do that. I'll
put
do
them in. Yeah, send them over. I'll get them added in. God, that's amazing.
So when people,
thank you everybody for sharing. By the way,
yeah, that was awesome. Thank you guys, much appreciated. And it goes back to like I get asked my advice on, how to get the most out of the game and stuff quite a lot, and how to get into raiding, or how to get into PvP, or how to get into Mythic Plus and things like that. And my advice is always the same. And there are two kind of like branches to it. The first thing is always like the way you can get the most out of this game is always the same. It's always to join a good guild. I know lots of people play solo and they like playing solo, and I spent a lot of still probably the majority of my WoW life doing that. But everything changed for me when I found a good guild, and like the game opened up, like whole new kind of ways of playing opened up, and it became then the thing that I liked in my life in the way that I do, you know? So that's always like my number one bit of advice to anyone wanting to enjoy the game more, get into new ways of playing the game. But there is a second part to that bit of advice. The second part is never be afraid to leave a guild if it just feels wrong in any way. Like, just leave. Just G-quit when they ask you to go holy. Who cares? Just leave. It's a guild. You don't owe these people anything most of the time.
Yeah, you really shouldn't. I mean, it's really life advice. Don't stay in any relationships that you don't need to be in, like that are unhealthy. Like, why bother? Life is too short. Why waste it in a WoW guild that makes you want to tear your hair out?
Yeah.
Like, just, yeah. Yeah,
Well, that was fun.
That loyalty for something else.
I enjoyed that. That was very silly. That was a silly episode, and I liked it.
That was. We went places. This episode has been on a journey, Taliesin.
And yet somehow ended right back where it started.
And now I'm gonna G-quit this episode.
Oh, nice! Boom! There you go. You did it.
There it is. There it is. If you'd like to write in, be a part of the podcast, wowkillercast@gmail.com is the place to do so. Anything, questions for us, theories for WoW, where you think it's going next. I have a feeling we're going to take an email or two next week because I cannot imagine a world where World of Warcraft announces a damn thing the week before BlizzCon. So send them in, wowkillercast@gmail.com. If you would like to support the show, you can do so by subscribing to it. Wherever you get the show, subscribe to it so you get new episodes automatically. Download the episode every week if you're listening on a podcast catcher. That helps our metrics big time, which helps the show grow, which is really great for us. And then you can, so find WoW Killer wherever it is you get your podcasts or over at youtube.com/WowKiller. Also, a huge thanks to Andrew Allen for our outro and intro music. Check out his work over at andrewallenmusic.com. But Taliesin, before you go, if folks are somehow unaware of the fact that you have an entirely other YouTube channel full of wonderful WoW content, where can everyone find you?
You can find us at Taliesin and Evitel Do Games on the YouTubes. You can find us on Twitter at Taliesin Evitel, and you can find us on Twitch, where you can watch this very show be recorded live at Taliesin and Evitel.
Sick. I'm Garrett Art on Twitter. You can follow me on there. This podcast and every single other one that I produce can be found over at amove.tv. It's amove.tv. Hearthstone, Heroes of the Storm, World of Warcraft stuff. It's all over there. Go check it out. Anytime I see a comment that's like, oh, I didn't know you did X show, I'm just like, it's because I mentioned Amove at the end of a podcast, and that's the place where you can hide your most sensitive information. Go to Amove. Check it out. Lots of other awesome shows over there. That's going to wrap it up for this episode of WoW Killer. Until next time, good luck, have fun, and hope you don't G-quit this podcast.
Top draw finish there. Top draw.
Oh, yeah.